Well, good morning. First, I want to thank you all for being here and to remind you to make sure your horses have plenty of water and that you all do too, and make sure they get back to their stalls so we don't have any sick horses or sick people, and keep yourselves hydrated. We know it's hot out there. My name is Michael Oqueto. This is Cindy Murgart. We have 3 other judges up there. We have Andrea Kane, we have Christy Wood, and Lita Perrin. The 3 of us are going to walk through this with you all today. Please, if you have any questions, I know this is going to be a lot of information to do 3 different divisions here. Ask questions, okay? If for some reason during the week, since we're doing the Ride of the Patterns all today, if you have any questions, you can go back. They're videoing this to look at it. If you have any questions from there, go through the proper channels to our ring stewards to ask us the question. We are available for you the whole horse show. We are here because of you, okay? And we want you to do the best to your ability, okay? So we're going to start off this morning with the walk trot horsemanship. We're going to go over some fine points right now that's going to cover all 3, the showmanship, the horsemanship, and the equitation, that these maneuvers and penalties all are the same. We're still looking for the same process of when you go through your pattern, okay? So I'm going to turn you over to Cindy here. We have some notes for y'all to know that these are all inclusive for the 3 divisions that we're going to be talking about, okay?
I see some of you have your penalty sheets, and we wanted to give those to you today because we thought it would really help you to see where the penalties are and what they mean. A lot of times I'll have people come up to me after a show and they'll say, I didn't understand. I was looking at the score sheets and I was wondering what I would get a penalty 3 for. And if you know in the pattern where those penalties may arise, I think it'll really help you to understand and maybe avoid even getting some of those penalties, because sometimes I think people just don't realize that that's where a penalty may occur. So hopefully everyone was able to get those sheets. I know Carrie was printing those up, and I see that there are some up there. So if you don't have a sheet, please sit next to someone that does, so that you can take a look at that. And just so you know, these sheets are always available on the Appaloosa website under Judges Forms, so you can look up every reference sheet for all the different pattern classes. All right, super. We have our first pattern that we're going to go over today, which is our horsemanship 10 and under. So some of the things that we talked about previously, the panel of judges, we all talked this morning because we all want to be on the same page with this. Some things to remember, and this is actually for every class. If it asks for a walk, you need to walk a minimum of 4 front feet horse steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, to be considered an average walk. If you do not have at least 4 front feet footsteps, that would be considered not fully executing the walk, and that would put you into a maneuver minus situation. And it will more than likely be a maneuver minus of 2 or 3. So you want to make sure that you do execute the walk fully. That would be 4 front feet hoof prints. 1, 2, 3, 4 would get you your full executed walk. Now, that's a minimum. You can go further unless it specifies a horse length. And a horse length would just be those 4 front feet hoof steps. Okay? All right, super. Something else that's in this pattern that you'll notice, there's going to be a jog, and then within 10 feet of that jog, after the turn, you have to be jogging. So there's going to be a turn, and you have to start jogging. You must make sure within 10 feet of starting that you are in the jog, or you will assess a 3-point penalty. If you go 1, 2, 3 before you jog, that could get you a 1-point penalty for being out of gait. So please make sure after you do the turn, you're right into your jog. If you are extending in the extension jog and you don't have an extension, Again, that would be not fully showing the maneuver. That would be more than likely a -2 to a -3 in your maneuver. And there is a section in this pattern that asks for 2 horse lengths. You need to make sure you walk 8 steps, 8 front feet footsteps. All right, let's go ahead and do the pattern now that you're thinking about those things. And Amy is decided to be our demonstrator today. So Amy is going to start by walking. She's going to start at A. She needs to be at A. She needs to be ready to go when the judges motion. She's going to start with her walk. She has to get at least 4 front feet footsteps. Then she's going to jog. Then she's going to walk. Oh, you can keep going. Sorry. I was reading the directions, not looking at the picture.
With that said about reading, make sure that you read the pattern. Don't look at the pattern as the physical written out. It goes by the written verbiage.
Now, after she's made that half loop, she's going to start her walk. And again, she must make sure she walks 4 steps. She stops, does her 270-degree turn to the left, and that should be on the haunches. Now she's going to jog. Notice she's in the jog. She needed to be jogging after about 2 steps. On the 3rd step, she needed to be starting her jog, which she did. She jogs the loop. She wants to be pretty similar to where she started her walk, maybe just a smidge past. And now she's going to start her extended jog. And she's going to extend jog until she's equal with cone A. Oh, sorry, I lied. Then we regular jog. I was looking at the little slashes. I apologize. So she was going to break to her regular jog about the same distance that she walked out to begin with. So the same distance that she walked out from A is where she'll start her regular jog. She will stop when she's equal with A, do her backup. Again, the backup has to be a minimum of 4 front feet steps back, which she did execute. Okay. We're going to do kind of a demonstration of what you would not want to have happen. 1, 2. That would not be a fully executed back. If you did 1 or 2 steps like that where you actually showed us some back but did not have a fully executed back, that would more than likely result in either a -2 or a -3, depending on the severity, on the score sheet. So you want to make sure you do a full 4 steps back. Could you do, Amy, a full 4 steps for us? 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. So that would be the minimum that you would want to back. If it specifies 1 horse length, that's what you need to do is 4 steps. All right. Then you're going to walk off. And remember, when you're walking, it says walk 1 horse length past A. You're still being judged. So 1 horse length past A is 4 steps. You are still being judged. You need to still be properly sitting with your arms correct, and you're still showing. And honestly, until you exit that arena, I would continue to show. You don't want to drop your guard at any point. Okay. Are there any questions on the 10 and under? Anybody? Okay, awesome. We're going to do the 11 through 18 because there's not much of a difference on this one. All right. Again, you're going to be starting at A. You need to be ready to go at A. And let me bring up something else that we'll need to talk about as we go along. Rein length. This was a discussion this morning. A lot of the judges have. Rein length needs to be some contact, not a loose, droopy rein. If you have a loose droopy rein, just know that you will more than likely receive a minus score in your maneuver. So you want to make sure you don't have a loose droopy rein in the horsemanship. You're supposed to show some contact. Okay, she's going to go ahead right now and show you some different types. So this can be considered acceptable as far as the length. You're still acceptable on this. You're starting into your unacceptable rein length. So now you can see that there is a droop in that rein. When that rein has a flop, like it does right there, which will happen as you start to move, that would be unacceptable. The contact between the rider and the horse has left. So you would, in the horsemanship, receive a minus in the maneuverability score, or the maneuver score. In the equitation, you would actually get a penalty. So there is a penalty for that in the equitation. All right, thank you so much. That was excellent. All right, Amy's going to walk at least those 4 steps. She will then begin her jog. She will go up and do her half loop, just as the 10 and under did. All right, now she's dropped down to her walk. She must execute at least 4 steps. It does not specify that it's only a horse length, so she can go further than 4 steps. She will then stop and do her 270 to the left. All right, can you stop right there, Amy, for us for just a moment? So we want to go ahead and take care of another little housekeeping thing here, and this way the rest of our patterns will go faster. There is an under and over rotation penalty. If you look at your penalties, you can be penalized a 1-point penalty for under or over rotating up to 1/4. If you over or under rotate more than 1/4, it is either an off pattern or a disqualification issue. So you want to make sure that you do your turn correctly. So we're going to have her do her 270 and under rotate her turn. There. You can see that she did not complete her turn. Her right front is definitely not in line, and she is not facing the wall straight. So that would incur a 1-point penalty. And someone that didn't realize that may say, wait a minute, I did my turn, why did I get a penalty? And that would be why. And then if she over-rotated, she's went a step past. Now, she could go a step past up to almost a full quarter and still just receive that 1-point penalty. But just know the more extensive the over-rotation or under-rotation is, you also receive a minus score in your maneuver as well. All right, Amy, great. Thank you. She's going to go right back to where she was so we can continue executing this pattern. Just as she's going back to kind of help you out as far as in other pattern events, the showmanship is also an event where we see a lot of the under and over rotation. So you need to be cognizant of that as well. All right, she's going to go ahead and jog, and again, she needed to be in that jog by about that 3rd step. We know it takes them sometimes a couple of steps to get into that next maneuver. But by about that 3rd step, you need to be in that jog to make sure you don't incur a penalty. She's going to jog her half loop here. Basically, it's more of a 3/4 loop. And then she will begin her extended jog. And then once she gets to where she started her jog earlier, she's going to break down to a regular jog. There needs to be a definite distinction between that extended jog and regular jog to make sure you don't get a minus in that maneuver. She's going to back her 4 steps at least. She did. Then she's going to walk a square corner. And a square corner means that she's going to actually rotate over that hock, which she did very nicely, to make sure she executes a square and not a round corner. So she did a very good job of executing that square corner. And again, that there was no specific amount of steps, but you need to make sure you do at least 4 in each section. So at least 4 and at least 4. Okay. And you should not stop at the end. You should go ahead and exit the arena. And the square corner, you cannot stop. You need to continue moving in your square corner. So, okay. That would be in the maneuver score. There would be anything from a minus, you could do a -0.5 all the way up to a -3, depending on the quality. There is not a penalty in the horsemanship or the equitation for not pivoting on the correct foot. There is in the showmanship. It is credit earning. So there's no penalty, again, in the horsemanship or the equitation. Showmanship, yes, then you would incur a penalty, but in the horsemanship and equitation. Now, if you execute an excellent turn on the haunches, on the correct foot, you're definitely going to get a plus in the maneuver score. We've talked a lot about minuses, but there's also pluses, okay? So you want to plus. If you have that excellent extended jog down through there, you're going to plus that maneuver, okay? Right. And if you have a great turn, I mean, there's many times you'll throw out there a +1, +2, or a +3. Yep. Right. There's no penalty. There's no penalty. So if you have a turn that is not on the haunches, but is but is average, it's going to get a 0 score. It'll be a 0 score. We call it a 0. And then if it's a turn that's not on the haunches and just truly is not a good executed score or turn, the shoulders are left out, you can really tell they're being resistant, then it's going to become a minus in the maneuver. Yeah. Hopefully that helped with that. Okay, great. Thank you for asking questions. All right. Again, when you're doing that square corner, make sure you don't stop. That forward motion needs to keep moving. You can't stop and do a turn. You have to keep the movement forward. Amy, would you show them what I'm talking about? There she stopped and turned. Now show them a correct. There she stopped and turned. Now, continue your forward motion. Perfect. She continued her forward motion and made that square turn. Okay? Awesome. All right. Next pattern. Okay, so when you come to the cone, you're just always considered you're being judged from the time you enter that gate until the time you leave. One of the judges wanted to bring up that there's not excessive schooling. So when you're walking from the gate to the cone, you're not banging on that horse's face, you're not doing an over amount of schooling, getting prepared to go into the pattern. Schooling ends at the gate. So you need to make sure as soon as you enter that gate and until you exit that gate, you are not doing any schooling. That's another thing. I've seen people get done with their pattern and just start bumping on that horse's face. That's going to get you a minus in the maneuver score because of your schooling. And depending on how excessive it is, it could go into a penalty. Okay? All right, next we're going to do our novice. All right, so for our novice horsemanship, we have our cone now moved over. Actually, do you feel like that cone Carrie should maybe be a little more toward us because of the pattern being a little more narrow, or not? So they can go. Okay. They can go side to side. Okay. Yep. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yep. All right. We just had a little discussion to make sure. On this novice pattern, if you're looking at your novice pattern, you'll note that on the paper it looks quite narrow. But we're going to still give you the range of the arena to use. That is up to you, and the degree of difficulty is up to you. So you don't have to, when you come in, park right next to this cone. You can actually be out here. If that's where you need to be to execute this pattern correctly, that's fine. That's you taking a look at it ahead of time, knowing where your horse needs to be in order to execute this pattern correctly. When there's only one cone and it's up to you to determine where you need to be, that's you deciding where am I going to put my horse to show my horse the best for this pattern. Okay, that's part of the degree of difficulty of these types of patterns. You really need to think ahead before you ever execute your pattern and have a plan. Have for where am I going to start at my cone? Where am I going to start my transition from my walk to my jog, to my extended jog? Where am I going to start my transition into my lope? Where am I going to stop to make sure that I have that equal distance from where I start my lope to where I stop? So you need to make sure you find your spots ahead of time. One rule of thumb, never use a person or anything that is mobile as a spot, because it may move. If you were using a certain garbage can the night before and that garbage can is gone the next day, that makes it difficult to find your spot. So find something that is more permanent, that you know will be there the next day to use as your marker. We did have a question. Right. Yes, that would not be, because this is just our beginning marker and again, there's no other markers. So this is letting you decide where you're going to execute this pattern with your horse. How is your horse going to handle this pattern the best? If your horse is going to be better in a narrow pattern, that's the way you're going to execute it. If you need more distance, then if you have a big horse, you're going to execute it with more distance. Awesome question. Okay, Amy, we're going to go ahead and get started. She's going to begin it says walk 1 horse length. So she needs to walk those 4 steps and then start her jog. She started her jog within 3 steps after that, so she's in good shape. Yep. She is riding her pattern. So we have to, as judges, discern, is she starting and is she stopping in the same places? So we have to figure out where she started when she started her extended lope, where she was when she came back to her collected jog, then where she started her lope, because she needs to stop her lope about the same distance of where she started it to do her turn. Good. Then she's going to turn to the right, 360-degree turn. Then she needs to do her walk at least 4 steps. Then she's going to do a left lead to A. So she'll be equal with A. She will stop when she's equal with A, and she will need to back a minimum of 4 front feet steps to get an average or to a credit earning. Good. Back. Then she's going to jog a serpentine until she's 2 horse lengths past A. So she needs to go 2 horse lengths past. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. She's executed her pattern correctly. With these patterns where they give you just one cone, they're trying to see if you can calibrate where your horse needs to be. So it's a higher level of difficulty, actually, than having the cones out there. And it makes it a little harder for us as judges to make sure we're really attentive. We're watching where did that horse start, where did it stop, to make sure that if there is something that we need to be marking, that we are able to do so. Okay? Yes, sir. Yes. Right. So what would they need to do? They would need to start closer to this cone, right? Because they want to make a wider pattern to start with, okay? And then they would want to go further over toward the rail so that when they stopped, they gave themselves more room to do that serpentine. She had 8 steps. Let me see your 8 steps again. Once you've backed, and again, this is, you would make sure you backed more than, you might want to back 6 or 8 steps, which is fine. It doesn't, it's not specific one horse length. Then you jog sideways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. She has 14 good steps. When she was backing, yeah. And you can back further. Right. So, Amy, could you come over here and back again for me? I just want to make sure, because I don't want anybody to feel they're not given a proper amount of space by any means. If you could stop right where A is and do your back, and just back a little further this time, maybe back a good 2 horse lengths. All right, so now she's given herself quite a bit of distance there. Now, if you notice, it shows that the serpentine can be above A, so she can start her jog there, circle right here, and then go. And then that gives her plenty of distance to go down. Does that answer your question more? Okay. So again, a lot of this is you knowing your horse and then looking at your arena and determining what spots do I need to hit to make my horse shine in this pattern. Yeah, and we can move it forward. I mean, that's fine. You want to do that? Sure. And then that'll give you a little bit more room as well. Okay. We just need to make sure that we make that change. Yep. Just past the sign here. Yep. Thank you. All right. Thank you again. Another excellent question. Anything else? All right. Next pattern is... Okay, now on this pattern, this one's very specific. It says begin at A, walk 1 horse length. Now this pattern is very similar to the other pattern in the way it's drawn, so we're going to leave the cone at the same place. She jogs right after she walked 4 steps. Then she's going to go into her extended jog, and that needs to be a definite extension in order to make sure that she doesn't get a minus, but that maybe she can get a plus in that maneuver score. Then she has to break down to the jog, and again, we have to see that jog come down. then she will be loping and stopping at the same straight across from where she started her lope. Same spot. Good. She will execute her turn on the haunches. Then it says walk. She needs to make sure she does at least a minimum of 4 steps. It's not a horse length. It just says walk, so she just needs to make sure that she gets those 4 steps in. She will now jog a small circle to the right. So you need to look at how you're doing your pattern, where you started, and make sure your jog circle does not extend all the way to your track line that you started on, because that would be over the size that it requires. Then you're going to do a left lead to A and stop. She's going to make sure that she stops directly across from A. Then she will back. Again, it doesn't specify, so you just need to make sure you get your 4 steps in. And then your pattern is complete. You will exit the arena. When it doesn't specify a gait, you need to exit at a walk, and you need to make sure that you are not schooling.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you all are clear on this. This line to me is very important when you come off this cone, because you're showing 3 different gaits in one maneuver. So Amy, if you can come back up here, because we're going from, there's a jog, extended jog, and then the collected jog. We have to see a clear difference. I know to you all it feels a difference, but we have to see it. And that's where people go, well, I did that. Well, it has to be communicated to us as judges so we can tell our scribes +1, +2, +3, -2, -1. Okay? Does that make sense to y'all, or just average? So I need Amy to clearly make this line so you can see what we're looking at, so you understand it. Here's the walk, very clear, walk. Then we go to the jog. Now she's going to extend the jog. And this is where I think we're going to run into, hopefully we don't, but run into some problems, is going back to the collected jog. Make sure that this horse comes back, your horse comes back to the jog. Did you see that horse back off? Did you see it actually really was very obedient, came right back to the bridle, and the minimum of 4 steps that she got in? Is there any questions there? This will also work when you have those walk maneuvers, from a walk to an extended walk, and from your lopes to your extended lope, or your canter to your extended canter or hand gallop. Okay? Does that make sense? We have to see that distinction. I know you all think you do it, and you go, well, I did it, but we have to see it. We have to see that horse come back to the bridle. Okay? Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Oh, you want to see it? Okay. Amy, she wants to show you from the walk to the extended walk, then come back to the walk. So let's do that transition. The question is, they wanted to see the walk to the extended walk, the difference. Okay? And notice the rein length doesn't change. The lengthen of stride is what we're looking for. The difference in the horse, and then coming back. Of course, using your hand excessively, all that is going to be part of your maneuver score. Does that make sense? Did you see that? Everybody see that? Okay.
Any other questions? No? Good. Excellent questions. I really like being able to do this because I think it'll clarify things. Did you have a question or no? I think she's just stretching. All right, we're ready to go on to our 13 and under and non-pro masters. So this takes care of both 13 and under and non-pro masters. This pattern will have the walk, then the extended walk. So I think this is also going to show the question that we just had before. So she's looking at the pattern real quick. She's going to do the walk, which she needs to make sure she gets 4 good steps in before she starts her extended walk. then does her extended walk, make sure she gets a minimum of 4 steps there. You can go more than that. It doesn't specify, but you need to make sure you do at least the minimum for the requirement of the gait. And then she's going to start with a lope. All right, are you ready? Okay, super. So she's going to start with her regular walk. She's going to make sure that once she passes that cone, she gets at least 4 steps in. Stop, please. We also don't want to go too slow. So we don't want to say, okay, I know I got to extend, so I'm going to go really slow to start with. Okay? So we don't want to do that. We want to just have a natural walk, and then we want to see a lengthening of stride for the extended walk where that shoulder lengthens. So you'll watch her shoulder will lengthen when she starts the extended. The shoulder of the horse lengthened, the lengthen of the stride from behind lengthened. She's went over 4 strides, so she was good. She does her lope in the left lead. Now she needs to do a simple or a flying change. 1, 2 steps. So you don't want to go more than 3 breakdown steps before you go into your next lead if you're doing a simple change. And it can be done through the walk or the trot. It cannot be done with a stop. So you cannot go up, stop, and then start your right lead. You have to actually keep forward motion in either a walk or in the trot. If you go more than the 3 strides, then you could potentially be into a penalty if you go further, because you can either get into a 3-point penalty for being 10 feet beyond where you're supposed to take your next gait, or for being out of lead. Now, she just did an over rotation. Okay. She will now jog. She will not complete the circle, but she will then extend out and go straight. Not extend her jog, but just go straight. Kind of serpentine back here. So that needs to be apparent. You need to make sure you have that serpentine apparent. It can't just be a straight line. Then she will stop at A. She will lope to A and then break to a walk for 1 horse length. So she needs to walk a minimum of 4 steps and then exit at the walk. So again, there is no stop. It's just lope to right lead to A, break to the walk. So there should not be a stop motion there. If you totally hesitate and stop, that would be a break of gait. She just needs to come right down to the walk. It would be a 1 penalty break of gait for the walk. All right. Amy, do you want to run that one more time? I think the biggest issues you may run into here is just making sure if you do a flying change and the flying change is on target, it flows, it's right where you ask, you could get credit. If you do a great simple change, you could get credit. But if you do a bad change for either a flying or a simple, it could be in the negative for the maneuver, and it could incur penalties depending on what occurs. So in that flying change, if you're trying and the horse then breaks, then that could be a break of gait because your horse did not do what you were asking for it to do. If it was obvious that the horse just broke gait there on you. Yes, and a simple change can be credit earning. Don't think, oh my gosh, I'm the only one in here that can't do a flying change. It's okay. If you can do a slick, simple change where you do a couple of steps and right into that other lead and that horse never loses frame and your body never loses frame and it's smooth as silk, you're going to get credit. Where if you go out there and you try and get a flying change and your horse isn't good at it and you go way past where you need to be to get the change done and you come out of your seat and you're not with the horse any longer, that's going to be a negative. So you don't want that. You want what's going to be best for you and your horse. Plan ahead, okay? All right, you can go right on ahead. We don't start counting these steps until you have started, so you need to make sure you're at the cone and not behind the cone. She transitioned smoothly into that first slope. Has her change. Good. Just a 2-step change. That's fine. She's going to make sure that she is looking for her spot where she wants to stop to do her back. She's already planned this out. She made sure she got at least the minimum of the 4 steps back. Does her turn. Completes her turn. Nope, she's correct. Right and then left. Yeah. Jogs her kind of a half circle and then executes a serpentine. This is where I think we're going to run into some issues. This has to be a serpentine. It cannot be a straight line. So she has to make this arc right there to show that she completed the serpentine. We can't have a straight line because that flattens the serpentine. Almost envision a cone being there. She's going to break just to the walk, which she did. She doesn't lose any points there. And then she's going to make sure she walks a good 4 steps, which she'll have more than that to get to the exits. Yes, a positive thing here that Michael wanted to bring up is that she really was thinking out where her pattern placement is for the size of her horse, because that's very important. Places in the arena that she maybe already planned out that are good so that it gives her plenty of room to stop, get enough back in, do that half circle, just to make sure that she has the room to execute what she needs to get done. We also want to make sure that people know, are we moving it? Okay, something we want to make sure that I noted it a little bit. If you're back here and the judges nod at you, we're not judging you till you've passed this cone. So make sure once you get past the cone, you get the required amount of steps to show your gait, okay? So we start at the cone. That's what the pattern tells us. Yes. If they start there, we're not going to take off for you starting behind the cone, but we're not going to start judging you right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you would have your walk steps. This is always a question. As long as we can see somewhere between the shoulder and the nose are at the cone, then we consider you at the cone. But if you're well behind the cone, we're not going to start counting until you reach the cone. So if you started back here and we nodded you on and you walked and you said 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you went into your next element, whatever it be, a jog or a lope, that would actually be an off pattern, because as far as we are concerned, in the pattern you did not execute that walk. So depending on your division, it would be either an off pattern or disqualification. Yes. We do not. The question was, do we mark down for starting that early? So somebody's standing back here. We're not going to mark down for that. Now, it may not, in our mind, as we're watching it, we may think, I wonder why they need that much of a head start. So maybe that first maneuver for us might not be credit earning, but we're not going to mark off on that. But if you get to here and you do 1, 2, then you're going to get a minus for not getting your full walk in. Okay? Great question. Any other questions? Nope. All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move forward to our next pattern. Our next pattern will cover 14 through 18 and non-pro 35 and over. This one has more to it. There's quite a bit in this pattern. So we'll try to walk you through this one the best we can to make sure we hit all the important parts. Now this cone says begin even with A. So it specifies you need to be next to A. So I would be next to A for sure because it says that. Then it says side pass to A. So right now she needed to make sure she was over far enough that she could side pass, again, good reference here, a good 4 steps across. So you want to make sure that you can side pass a minimum of 4 steps over to that cone. 1, 2, that would not be, you would have side passed, but that would be a minus in the maneuver. We could not plus that. It would not be credit earning because you did not fully execute the entire maneuver. So let's go ahead and do the 4 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the last step was slight, but it was a movement for that step. So we would probably not give any credit for that side pass because the last step didn't fully engage, but it would be enough to say that she did do the full maneuver score, which we would call a 0 score, an average. Okay? All right. Next, she's going to walk a square corner. Again, she's going to make sure she walks forward 4 steps and then does her square, keeps forward motion. Then she's going to extend her walk. She needs to extend at least a good 4 steps before she stops and backs. Then she will execute a left lead. She needs to do this by the 3rd step, which she did. Now, this next, she needs to extend the lope and show a definite extension for at least 4 strides. Of course, you're going to more on this one because it shows more. And then she needs to collect for a minimum of 4 strides to show that she executed that gait. So you need to make sure you've got that collection for a good 4 strides. It can't be a 1 stride collection or no strides. Then she's going to do almost a complete circle, and she's going to take her right lead. Now, this pattern she maybe should have finished a little bit more pointing toward the gate in order to fully finish that first circle. It would not be credit earning because she made more of a straight line there than actually fully being pointed back toward the gate. Amy, let's go back and do that circle again, if you don't mind, the jog circle. So just like you did your extended and then come down to your collection and the jog. And then on this circle, you'll need to be completely facing the gate before you start your right lead. That will also make it easier for you to do a right lead for this pattern and fully execute that next circle. Now she'll start her lead there. Good. And you can see how that made it much easier for her horse to go into that right lead and to execute a nice round top to that circle. And also pattern placement for that next maneuver. So she needs to make sure she extends or goes past her extended line that she already loped to stop. You're going, yep. She had to drop her stirrups. So you need to make sure that you do, yep, drop your stirrups, do your turn to the left, and then turn to the right. And then she's going to jog a square corner. Again, she needs to be jogging within 3 strides of that turn, and she needs to make sure she maintains forward motion in that square corner. Yep, she collects. You must collect for at least 1 horse length, and that's past A. So you're going to extend the jog to A. She would be extending to A. Then she's going to collect for 1 horse length. So a minimum of 4 steps, and then she can exit. She can still exit at the jog, which is fine, but she needs to make sure she definitely extends to A and then collects a minimum of 4 steps. Okay, Amy is saying, I realized once I'm writing this pattern, because this pattern has a lot more elements to it, that I might need to change my pattern placement. I would definitely make sure I get in and ride this pattern the night before or sometime before to make sure you have your spots, because this pattern has a lot of elements to it, and you want to make sure you're hitting those spots, because that's something we're going to be looking for. We're going to be making sure that you were thinking ahead, that you had your pattern placement. What was the question?
The question is, when you go to drop your stirrups, it says extend to lope, and then you're going to jog, lope to the right lead, stop, drop your stirrups. So make sure you drop your stirrups prior to your turn, okay? After you stop, okay? So when you initiate that stop, drop your stirrups. Then you're going to turn left, turn right. You're going to jog the square corner. This might be a little bit of planning on your part that you're going to need. That's a tight turn, and it's made to be that way. You have to understand that. That's showing the degree of difficulty to get that horse to jog off as quickly as possible, because if you saunter off at the walk, you're using up all that space, and you're going to end up over here. Does that make sense? You've got to go. We want you to go that 4. Just think, jog, 1, 2, 3, 4, turn. If you walk 2 or 3 steps, you're going to find yourself jammed, and what's going to happen is you're going to possibly break a gate or not get that stride in, and you're going to be on the wrong, correct. You're going to end up wrong. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's going to take a lot of planning and practice on y'all's part. Another part that Amy wanted to correct is once she rode the pattern out here, and that's what y'all need to do, is get out here and ride it and ride it and ride it, is she realized when she did her right circle that she went about to that Elite Custom Saddle or the Appaloosa Horse Club sign. She needed more room. She needed to come down further. So this time you're going to see her change it up, because she has practiced it now and ridden it, not just looked at it. She's ridden it and realized, hey, I need to come down at least to that Appaloosa Horse Club sign in my circle, okay, to come across, to have enough room to do what she needs to do. Does that make sense? That's just planning. This is all planning. So this is what we're here for, is for you all to observe this. Take note of these adjustments, okay?
The other one on that, if you have a large horse, I would definitely make sure on my first left lead that I went closer to the rail over there so that my extension line is further over. And then that way, just like your question about getting enough jog in before you have to turn and come down, you're giving yourself more room. Okay? So again, it's all planning. And that's what's the masterpiece of these type of patterns, is that you're able to plan and you're able to figure out where it is that you need to be. Now she's going to extend. She got her 4 steps in. She's going to do her left lead. Oh, excuse me, back. That's my bad. I apologize. She's going to back. I missed my slashes. Then she's going to do her left lead. And she's going to go a little closer to the wall this time so that her extension line is way over by the wall. So you can see now she starts to extend. So she won't have to come as far to the middle when she stops to do her turns. She collects 1, 2, 3, 4. She got those in. She does her jog circle. You can see how much further over she is now to the left, which is going to help her for her placement. She can go right on up toward the arena wall. These type of patterns allow you to use the arena. Now she can come in, and you can see she can pass that extension line very easily and get her stop in, drop her stirrups. That's going to be a hard one. I think a lot of us might forget that, so make sure you get those stirrups dropped before you start your turns. Then she's going to do her jog, and she's going to try and get into that jog as quickly as possible. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then she's going to turn, and then she's going to make sure she gets into her extension. And then once she gets to cone A, she's going to make sure she collects for a minimum of 4 strides. 1, 2, 3, 4. She qualified that gait, so she's great. Yeah, you don't specifically have to jog 4 as long as you get 4 in from the start, as long as you can show 4 jog steps. The only bad thing, and the reason that I would plan for 4 steps, is because if you do 1, 2, and turn, it's just not going to be credit earning. You want to display a jog. You've gotten into the jog. Now, if you hit 3, do your turn, and you get 2 more or so, you're fine. You've qualified the gait. But doing 1 or 2 steps and then just automatically turning, it's not going to be a pretty transition, and it's going to be difficult actually for your horse to get that square corner. So just clarifying that as long as each element you have a minimum of 4 steps for whatever gait it is, then you're fine. Okay.
Okay, Carrie and I were talking because there's nothing in our rule book that states about what happens if you do not drop your stirrups. So in this pattern, you're turning. So say you get a quarter of a way through your circle and go, oh, I forgot to drop my stirrups, and you drop your stirrups. We'll take that in the maneuver score for that maneuver. If you completely rotate that circle, it's a DQ. You're off pattern. Has everybody got that? That's been an executive decision just made just now, but that's the way we're going to handle that, okay? So we're going to give you a little bit of forgiveness, but if you complete the whole maneuver without those stirrups, it will be a disqualification. Any other questions on that? Yes. Right. Yes. The question is about reins and checking and reining your horse the pattern. Absolutely. There's no penalty, but there's maneuver score that we take that in, okay? We know she's out here schooling and whatever. We all get that. But in that class, if you do that, there won't even be a 0. It'll show it on there. Now, if you just do it once lightly or something, that depends, on how we view it at that time and what's going on, okay? But that is not credit earning at all. Okay? Good question. Okay, we good? Yes. The question is, in the drawing or the placement of the pattern, if you have a horse that's smaller, and as long as you're performing the pattern correctly, are you going to be penalized for that? Is that pretty much is that what your question is? Yeah, to come down further? No, you're not going to be. You can execute this pattern any way you want past this cone A. We're showing you pretty much the average or ideal way to perform it. If your horse is smaller and you want to adjust that that pattern, that is fine. I wouldn't adjust by cutting the arena in half, okay? Because you have extensions of your gates, you're going to need the room to make all these maneuvers, okay? But to your question of making it, if you have to come down there, no. As long as you can perform it the way that it is written, that's what we're looking at, okay? Because you mentioned the word drawn. We go by what is written, okay? Did that answer your question? You sure? Okay. Anybody else?
And I'm not sure if you were even asking, can I change the line of travel? Can I make it a little straighter? I would not vary from the way, like if it shows a circle, I would make it a circle, don't make it a straight line, okay? But you can adjust where you make your circle to fit the horse, okay? And that's the planning part. Are there any other questions on the horsemanship? We will not be doing the non-pro pattern, but we are going to show you where the cone is going to be placed. So for the non-pro pattern, the cone will be placed right here. Okay, this cone for non-pro will be very, very close to center of this grate next to the Beck Farm sign. And then it will be straight ahead to the post for the upright on the gate. So that gate post upright and this grate is where the non-pro cone will be. And the non-pros hopefully will have been able to take away from what we've done with the other patterns to implement in your pattern. All right. Showmanship will be next. Okay, as we're getting set up here for our 10 and under showmanship, a few things that the panel talked about this morning that we want to make sure everybody's clear on is when you are doing a turn, so you are doing a haunch turn, your horse needs to maintain its turn foot. Now this is different from the horsemanship and the equitation where we did not specify you had to maintain that hind foot. In showmanship, you do. Do not maintain the hind foot. For every quarter of the turn that your horse moves out of that turn would be a 3-point penalty. So if you move out of that turn in the first quarter, but then you maintain it the rest of the way around, you would only get a 3-point penalty. You would more than likely get a minus score in a maneuver. If you move in the second quarter too, or you move in the first quarter and then it moves again in the third quarter and then maintains, you would get 2 3-point penalties. The horses that accidentally do a little slide, but they're still pretty much in their turn foot area, that's just a 1-point penalty. But you want to try to keep them where they keep that foot solid, okay? If they pick it up and put it down as they're turning and they keep it in the same spot, that's just a 1-point penalty again. All right. A couple of other things. Are you going to be our... Okay. All right. If the pattern that you have calls for a hesitate, you need to make sure you definitely hesitate, that you and the horse stop all feet on the ground, okay? Let's see if there's anything else. Again, you need to make sure you are performing your jog within 10 feet, and the same thing for a walk within 10 feet of where you have to start. Just general, and you can see this on your sheet, if you break from the walk or the jog for under 2 strides or less, it's a 1-point penalty, and for over 2 strides, it's a 3-point penalty. If you're in the inspection and you set your horse up and you have started, and their horse does this because there's a fly or whatever reason, they lift and put it down, that's a 1-point penalty. If they lift and put it out, that is a 3-point penalty. And that would be assessed in both, if it happens in the setup, so you set your horse up and you stand back to signify your horse is set up and they do this, that would be a 1-point penalty. If you're walking around you and they do it again in the inspection, that's a new maneuver, it would happen again. Okay? And if your horse rests their hind leg, that is considered hip shot. And we decided, Michael, that would be just like moving the hind end and would be a 3-point penalty. So if you are set up and your horse decides to rest his back leg, you don't get it set back up, that would be just like the horse moving his rear end and would be a 3-point penalty. Okay, just so everybody is clear on those. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Is she ready? For our 10 and under pattern, we start with begin at A and we jog to B. At B, we need to walk, stop, and back. So this is where some of those penalties can come up for you not being executing the maneuver within 10 feet of the cone. So just be real cognizant of that. We don't want any 3-point penalties. That's why we're trying to let you guys know when these occur. We would love to not have to say that. We hate to give 3-point penalties. Okay, go ahead and start. You're going to walk to B. Oh, wait a minute. Am I on the 10 and under? Jog. Sorry, I was looking at number 2. I apologize. I got ahead of myself. Jog to B. Then you're going to walk at least 4 steps. Just show that you did walk. And then you're going to stop and back at least 4 steps to show you executed the back. Then you're going to jog to your judge and stop. Now, this is pattern. You got to be thinking, if you have a bigger horse, you may want to back further just to make sure you have room to jog to that judge. Okay? Okay. When you do your setup, you want to be as close to set as possible. This is very important. Showmanship has its roots in halter, and you want to be able to display that this horse can set squarely. So it's very important, and you would just know that you could get a minus in the maneuver score if your horse is not set squarely. After the inspection, she's going to do a 180-degree turn. She's going to walk a square corner. Just make sure you get your 4 steps in. Then you're going to extend your walk. Get your 4 steps in. Then you're going to jog your serpentine to the back. Again, this needs to show a serpentine, not a straight line. This needs to be across from B. So you have to do some planning in order to make sure you get that serpentine in. So B, you need to be cognizant of where B is in your pattern so that you can jog and get that serpentine in. Then you will do your turn 360. This is where you can see the right hind is staying steady. If that right hind were to come up and down, that would be 1 point. This could be an average to a credit earning turn because the turn was executed properly. Then the next will be to extend the walk 2 horse lengths, and then the pattern is complete. So that would be a minimum of 8 front feet steps, 2 horse lengths. And then you would exit. And just remember, again, you are being judged from the time you walk into the pen until you leave as far as schooling. So please make sure you're not, bumping on that horse's head or doing anything that might appear that you're schooling. So did we pull that back, Carrie? Okay, so we pulled that back. Yes. They're looking. Okay.
Right, but don't bump it. They're showing
so they need to be watching the flag. Okay. Okay. Michael brought up a very good point. When you set up at the cone, of course, you want to make sure you're on the correct side for where the judge is standing. So you would be showing to the judge or the ring steward that is in the pen. You will look up at this announcer stand area where the judges are seated. Andrea, would you raise your hand? So she might be the one that has the flag. She would flag you on. So you need to be watching to be released to go up there at the judge's stand. But you want to make sure you're standing next to on the correct side of your horse for wherever the judge is, which she is correct at this time. He's not across the front of her horse. So, okay, let's go ahead and try again. And we're jogging to B. Then she's going to walk. Got her 4 steps in. She's going to stop and back. She's going to make sure she gets 4 steps. She could get more if she wants. If she wants more room to jog to that judge, she's going to back more. She's going to set up, make sure she gets a square setup to try and get that credit earning. We like those plus points. If she is out of position while the judge is walking around her, that would be a 5-point penalty. So it's very important to make sure you're in position on the correct side of the horse. Now she will do a 180-degree turn. Again, the horse needs to maintain the pivot foot. She's going to walk her steps to make sure she gets a full 4 of walk-in, a full 4 of extended walk-in. Then she's going to do her serpentine. She's going to make sure she curves. Good. The edge of the serpentine. Good. That was perfect. The first time she straightened that line out, which would not have been credit earning. Good. She completed her turn. She didn't over or underspin. Again, don't forget, if you over or underspin, that does put you into a 1-point penalty. And then she did her 8 steps to make sure she completed the 2 horse length requirement. So could you do me a favor? I hate to ask you to do this. Can you make this horse step out at the turn? Yeah, just do something that would make him step out. There, that's good. That would be a 3-point penalty, okay? Yes. Okay. Something that's very important, when you're backing a horse, you want that horse to back off your body. You don't want to have to, you can notice how loose the chain is here on this horse. This horse is willingly backing off of her body, which would be credit earning, except for the push away. But besides that, it was credit earning. Now, this time she's going to show you backing the horse, which is the requirement. But she's having to make this horse back. That is not credit earning. There's a couple things. Of course, he's crooked, and it looks like she's having to force him backwards, so that would go into a negative maneuver score. There's not a penalty, but it would be a negative maneuver score. Now, notice that her left front foot is in front of the horse's left front foot. That is correct. And her left front should never go over in front of the horse's right front. So now she's going to just demonstrate standing in front of the horse. Now you can see her left front and her right front are both of her front feet are matching the horse's front feet. That would be standing in front of her horse, and that would incur a 5-point penalty. It does not happen when you're turning, but when you're backing, that is considered standing in front of the horse, and you need to make sure that you are not standing in front of the horse. Yes, ma'am. There are no penalties. The question was, are there any penalties for a gelding hanging down? They call that proud gelding sometimes. No, we don't give them any maneuver score. That would be no penalties. It may take away and distract from the total presentation, so it may not get as many plus points, but it is certainly not going to be a penalty. Yeah. Can you do one more turn for us? And we're going to do 2 turns. Do an overturn of about an eighth. So maybe 1 step overturn. A 180? Okay. She's going to do a 180, but she's not going to complete it. All right. So you can see, if I was looking down through the rear end of this horse, the front end is still to the left. That would be an underturn, and that would incur a 1-point penalty and more than likely a minus in the maneuver score. Now, just go 2 steps over, or there. That would be an over rotation. Again, you can see if I'm looking down that horse's rear end, the front end is all the way over here. Would you go a little bit past half? So if she had continued and did 2 more steps, and she forgot that she's supposed to do 180, just one more step, and she gets to there, and she's past the halfway mark of a quarter turn, she would end up with an off pattern or a disqualification depending on what division you are in. So you want to make sure that you don't go over a quarter turn. Okay? All right. Anything else on that one? Any other questions on that pattern? Okay. We're going to get the next pattern set up here real quick. While they're going over the pattern, this pattern has more cones in it, so there's more opportunity, or no, not this one, but the last one, more opportunity to not be in the correct gait within 10 feet. So just as an example, the last pattern was you started here and you jogged. If this horse walked 10 feet and then started the jog, that is where that 10-foot 3-point penalty is incurred. If you are not within the gate, or either starting or stopping within 10 feet of where you are designated to start and stop, that would incur that 3-point penalty. So I think a lot of times that's vague for people, so we really wanted to go over that for you. All right. This pattern has a little bit more in it. Okay, she starts with the cone on her, the cone will be on her left. She's going to begin at a jog, and she needs to make a definite arc. So she needs to jog, and then jog the arc, and then walk. So you can go ahead and begin. Oh, excuse me. This is the novice, 13 and under, and 14 to 18. Thank you. Novice, 13 and under, 14 to 18, and this is on page 30 of your pattern book. So she jogs her definite arc. Then she walked. She made sure she got her 4 steps in. So you need to set this pattern up and make sure you know where you need to be with your horse. She will set up, do a good square setup, do her inspection. I'm not sure, but I believe, yep, there, that was perfect. That shows you a lifting of the foot. That would be a 1-point penalty. Now, that would be a 3-point penalty where he just moved his rear foot and put it out. in front of him. And unfortunately, even though as horse people ourselves and we understand the angst from flies, we can't discern that it was a fly. So we do have to mark it. Okay? Are we moving the judge over? Okay. You want to come back and start again? Oh, you want to go from there? Okay, that's fine. So now you're going to do your turn, 270-degree turn and jog. Now she will have a little bit more room to get her jog in once with the judge moved over, but we'll do that again. So she's going to jog. She's going to make sure she shows a roundness. And then she's going to do the walk. Then she's going to make sure she gets 4 steps of extended walk. Then she will jog and stop. Back. She wants to make sure she backs far enough to give herself room to jog to A. And at A, the pattern is complete, but she can continue to jog to the exit. Once she's past A, if she breaks to the walk, that's okay. All right. Something to remember as you're setting up in your mind the pattern. Think about how many steps you need to back up in order to give yourself plenty of room to get those at least 4 jog steps in. Okay? All right. Do you want to run? Oh, we're going to get some fly spray so that we don't incur those 1-point penalties. This was something that was brought up today. When you come up and your horse stops, and boy, they stop great, and they stop square at the judge, you do not have to move that horse's feet. If that horse stops square, you just know that it was your lucky day. Go buy a lottery ticket, whatever it is you need to do that day because you had the luck, and show your horse. You do not have to move that horse's feet in order to fulfill the requirement of setting up. If they stop square, then go with it, because more than likely it's going to be credit earning because it's quicker, it's faster, it looks like you've prepared this horse at home, you're together, and it works out great. If it was just luck, like I said, just go buy a lottery ticket that day. Anybody need to see this pattern again? All right, awesome. Non-pro masters will be next. Non-pro masters on page 31. The cone will be moved in. Okay. Let's try that. Put the cone on to your right just a little bit, just so that it's off center. Right there, right there. You're good. Okay. So in this pattern, this is the masters. You're going to begin at a walk. You need to get 4 solid walk steps past that cone. Then you're going to extend the walk a good solid 4 steps. Then you're going to jog to your judge and stop and set. So we're trying to make it to where it's not so elongated that everyone's out of breath by the time they get down there. I know that it can get difficult running in this dirt sometimes. All right, they're discussing the pattern real quickly. Again, this one, it will be really looking at that extended walk. And I know that's something sometimes people don't show the full effect of. Make sure that horse is flowing through its shoulder, just like in hunter and hand. You'd want to have that nice extended walk, that good flow through the shoulder. Okay, we're going to count steps to make sure we can get everything in that's required and still not run everybody to death here. So she's going to start at A. And she will walk and then extend the walk. And to show that she's fulfilled the requirement, she'll make sure she walks 4 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. She's going to extend the walk 4 steps. Good. Then she can jog. She will stop and set for inspection. Yep, I think that's great. All right. After the inspection, she'll do a quarter turn right. Well, of course, it has to be right. And then she's going to extend the walk. Make sure you get 4 good steps in. Then she's going to do a 450-degree turn. This is important that you don't get ahead or in front of your horse too much to where they move that foot, because that would incur a penalty. Good. She stopped good and square as far as straight in line. She wasn't over or under. She walked forward 4 steps, stopped, did her back a minimum of 4 steps, jogged. Then she's going to walk her square corners. And then she's going to extend the walk to A, and the pattern is complete. I think we're going to go ahead and back it up just a little bit to make sure we have plenty of room to get the walk in at the end. We're going to run it one more time just so you can feel secure that the cone placement is where it needs to be. And just so you guys know, this is recorded, so you can go to fast forward to wherever you need to see where the cones need to be as you practice. All right, you can go right on ahead. All right, she's got her walk requirement in. She's getting her extended walk requirement in. Jogging. She's going to set for inspection. All right. Unfortunately, that would be a 1-point penalty every time he lifts his foot. You can go ahead. She would be walked around for inspection. Then she's going to do her 180. Make sure she's completed her turn. She's doing her extended walk, getting at least her 4 steps in. She's going to do her 450, making sure she maintains that pivot foot so as not to incur any penalties for sliding or for stepping out. She wants to get those plus points. Now she's going to walk forward a minimum of 4 steps, and then she's going to stop and back. Minimum of 4, but you can back as many as you need. Then she's going to jog forward. And then she's going to break to the walk and walk the square corner. As long as you get the 4 steps for the square corners, that's fine. You don't have to go forward a full 4, but you just want to make sure you have enough to get your walk requirement in. Then you're going to get your at least 4 extended walks in before A, and then your pattern is complete. I think that worked better. How did you guys feel about that one? Did anybody have any questions on this pattern? Nope. Okay, awesome. Does that look like enough room? If you don't think it's enough room, give me a thumbs down. Yes. You don't think it's enough room? You must have a large horse. Yeah. And you just brought up a good point. The point was, in order to showcase my horse, I'd like to walk more than 4 steps. And I agree 100%. Unless it specifies one length, by all means, we want you to go do what you need to do to showcase your horse. Minimum is 4, of course, because we need to make sure we see the walk. But it would be nicer. So, Carrie, do you feel like we should extend it just a smidge more? Let's go ahead and come down just a little bit more on this one. It was at, yeah, let's just start it there. Yep, that's good. And again, planning, none of this says specific. You just have to get your requirements. So if you need to walk a little further before you start jogging, just to give yourself enough room for what you know you can jog, that's fine. Okay? All right. Any other questions? All right. Thumbs up now. All right, our next group of patterns will be page 32, 13 and under, and non-pro 35 and over. So we will need to move this cone actually we may not. Okay. Then they don't. Okay. Okay, something that you need to be thinking ahead of on this pattern is your placement. This is going to be during the inspection, it's going to be a 3/4 walk around. So you need to be thinking about your placement. We're just getting the pattern. Yes, this pattern has quite a lot in it, so you need to be really thinking ahead and working this pattern with your horse in the arena, finding those spots. Remember, again, don't use a person as a spot because that person may move. They may think they were in the same place they were the night before, and they may not be. And you need to really be considerate of how big your horse is, or if your horse is a smaller horse, you may not need all that room. You don't want to run yourself to death. This one will start at A, and it will jog, then extend jog. And remember, if you start behind A, we're not counting the jog and steps until you have passed the cone. You can go ahead. So she needed to jog at least 4 and then extend the jog. Then she's going to stop. She needs to hesitate. So that means her feet and the horse's feet completely stopped. Hesitate, it doesn't mean you need to stop and set up. I've seen people do that before. You do not need to stop and set up there. You just hesitate. Just make sure everybody's feet are stopped, and then you go right on ahead. Yep, you don't have to look for the judge, nothing. You just keep going forward in your pattern. She did her walk. She did her extended walk. She's now doing her turn. And then she's going to back a minimum of 4 steps. She completed her turn. Yep, forgot the back. It is a lot to learn in a second because this is a big pattern. So it's jog, stop, 360, back. Then she's going to do a 270. She's going to walk. She just needs to walk a minimum of 4. Then she needs to extend the walk. And the extended walk can be inclusive of the corner for your steps requirement. Make sure it is a good square corner. She'll stop and do her setup. The inspection is what we want to watch for here. All right, and then she's going to go ahead. Jog to A. At A, break to a walk for 1 horse length. Pattern is complete. So you just need to make sure you get 4 steps in, which shouldn't be too hard because you're exiting. So, but yes, that was good. Let's run that through one more time so people can see it. Again, just make sure you're really paying attention to how far that ring steward walks around your horse as to what side you need to be on. Okay, first question was, is there a preference as to where you are? You need to figure out how far over you need to be for your horse. Okay, you can be a little bit behind it. We talked about that just a little bit earlier. The thing is we don't start counting you on pattern until you've passed the cone. Right, they'll invite you in. They'll have you in here set up, ready to go. You need to be watching at the judge's stand to have a nod, or they'll use a flag. If you're starting back here further, we won't actually start judging you until you've passed this cone. So the first maneuver is a jog. If you only jogged 2 steps and then went into your next maneuver, you didn't fulfill the requirement. Okay? Yep.
No. I just wanted to make a note. In showing horses, we understand what you all go through. They do spray this arena at night, but we know we're going to have flies. And also, when we're judging up there, we could have had something prior to you going on, or our tablets fail. You can creep to this cone. You do not have to stand up here for 10 minutes. We understand that. I would rather have you fresh coming to the cone than you all just standing there waiting on us, because there's a lot of things that happen up there. We don't expect you all to know, but there's a lot going on, okay? Getting scores in and scribes and translating things and whatever, and maybe we have to, whatever needs to be done. We don't want you standing up here at the cone. We get it. So if they tell you to come in, you don't have to march right up here unless you can see us all kind of look up at us and see if we're ready. If you see scribes and judges with their heads down, you're not going until those judges' heads are up, okay? Does that make sense? They'll give you the flag. I would rather you creep up here a little slower, or do a circle and not get up here and set up, or stand up here if you're riding. And then your horse gets upset because a fly's on it and stomping. So I want to give you all the best, we all do, advantage to show your horse, okay? I mean, don't lag back at the gate, but just come up here, get a little closer, okay?
Did you have another question? Okay. So that's why you need to bring your horse in, and it's going to really depend on the size of your horse. So you're going to have to calibrate, and like I said, that's the masterful plan of having one cone is, can you figure out where your horse needs to be to keep that flow? Okay, so you have that opportunity. You're not being confined by a lot of cones. You figure out where you need to be. We will definitely, wherever we finish our cone setup, that's where it will be, so you'll know where to set your cone, and where they're going to stand. Yes, ma'am. Great questions. That will not change, and you can watch this on video as well if you need to go back to it, okay? There was just real quick, I just want to go back to her first question as far as If you are back here, and like I said, we don't start judging your pattern before you pass this cone, but if you're back here and you're in the arena and you're schooling, you will be penalized for that. You are still showing from the moment you enter the gate until you leave. So make sure that even if you have to walk around a circle, we're not going to penalize you for that. But if you're schooling on the horse, bumping their face, doing things that you wouldn't be doing when you're showing, then you would be penalized. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Okay? All right, we're going to run this again real quick, and then after that, we're going to have to switch to our hunt seat act for a moment, and then we'll come back to our showmanship. So she's going to jog, then extend jog. She needs to make sure she gets 4 jog steps past that cone. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then she can extend her jog. Then she will stop and hesitate. And again, she doesn't have to look around. She just needs to make sure that she and the horse are both completely stopped, feet flat on the ground. Then she moves forward into her walk, and then her extend walk the corner to the judge. Oh, sorry, extend walk. I jumped my eyes forward. I do apologize. Then she's going to jog again, stop, do her 360 turn. This one has lots to it. Again, she kept that pivot foot. She closed her turn. She's going to back up. You want her to back off your body, not pulling her back. Then you want to do a 270 turn. She's going to do that walk and extend walk in the corner. Again, the walk, you just need to get your 4 steps in. Then you start your extension and make your turn where you need to. At the judge, she will stop. She will set up for inspection. She wants to try and get as square a set as possible. Again, this will be a 3/4 walk around. So you need to be very cognizant of where that ring steward stops on your point here. Then she will continue by jogging to A, and then at A she will break to a walk for 1 horse length, so she needs to get good 4 steps out. Of course, she will get more than that as she leaves. Okay. All right, we're going to actually do a little flip over to our eq. Our equitation horse needs to leave in a few moments, so we want to get the eq patterns done, and then we will come back and finish our last showmanship pattern. So we are going to start with 10 and under walk trot, which is page 7 of your pattern book. So please change over to your penalty sheet for hunt seat, or it just says equitation at the top. Hope, thank you for coming to help us.
I think Cindy's wore out already. Okay. Hunt seat act. Let's go ahead and go through this, and then we'll talk it as we go through. I think we're a little behind time here. We have a lot of patterns. Hope is going to go ahead and start. We're on the walk trot. Go ahead, Hope. And then we'll go over some things. Again, we're going to start at the walk. Make sure we're clear walk. Then we're going to go left diagonal. Remember, there's penalties incurred for looking down and being on the wrong diagonal. She is absolutely correct. She's going to sit trot a half circle. Then she's going to go back to the left diagonal. She's equal with the other side. Left diagonal. Then she's going to change to the right diagonal. and then she will stop. Notice she's facing the gate, and then she's going to back. And here's where we start talking about turns. 180-degree turn on the forehand left. Notice this horse turning on the forehand. It must turn on the forehand. You will get no credit if your horse turns on the haunches. It will be considered a turn, but it will be a very poor turn. A -2. Okay. Then we're going to walk and then extend walk past A. Okay, so you're still showing when you get past A. Okay, any questions? Would anybody like to see it again? Good? Okay. Hold on a second. It is. It looks like it. It looks like 11-18 is the same pattern. While we're kind of deciding where to go next here, I want Hope to demonstrate going into your diagonal. I'm going to show you something that is very common that we get in the hunt seat equitation, and it makes it very difficult for us to judge because a lot happens. Hope came through here the first time. She absolutely did a wonderful job. She has +1s. You could have +2'd her. You could have zeroed a couple of the other maneuvers, but a very nice pattern she did. Now I'm going to ask her to show you some things that we incur that we're trying to pass to you to help you practice to see what we do. Okay, we were going to just come off the line and sit off the line. So she's going to come off the line or at some point, and then she's going to do the left diagonal, but she's sitting for quite a distance, looks, and then gets it wrong. So we have a lot going on in that short time. Okay? She sat for quite a while to get the diagonal, and then looked down. So she's 10 feet already by looking down from where she should have started. So she's a 3-point penalty. She's a 1-point penalty for looking down, and I think it was a 3-point penalty for the incorrect diagonal. Okay? See how much happened in that short amount of time. Did everybody see that? Okay? What we're trying to show you is what we see and what we're trying to help you not to do. So go ahead, Hope, and let's start the next pattern, and then when we incur that, we'll show them how to do it correctly. What pattern are we on? 11 through 18. This is page 8. She sat. She got her diagonal. Never looked. Very credit earning. +1, +2. Now she's going to extend the trot. See the clear difference from the trot to the extended trot. And Cindy made a comment, it's not posting higher. Your horse is lengthening the stride. The diagonal chain was beautiful. Hands together. Thumbs up. Hands are closed. Notice the rein length. Contact. 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 We're going to back. Then we're going to do a forehand turn to the left. Very well executed. +1, at least. See the loss of contact here? Now what I want you to do, just stop and turn for us on that loss of contact. See how the connection is lost and the horse's shoulder goes over and we lose everything, okay? Very important. Think, hunt seat equitation is premised to go jump a fence, okay? We can't jump fences on a loose rein. It's not a good thing, okay? Loss of contact is a 3. is a penalty 3 in the rule book. Yes, ma'am. It should be sitting once and back up. You're missing a stride. 1, 2, back up. And picking it up. Okay, that's kind of what we went over, but good question. The question is there a penalty on picking up the diagonal? Yes, if it gets excessive. So what we're going to do is just come off the cone here, Hope, sitting, for example, to pick up your diagonal, and go about 3 or 4 strides sitting, and then pick up the correct diagonal, the left. She's going to trot, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to ever get it? Then we go, wow, she's gone quite a ways without getting that diagonal. I will take that in the maneuver score for me. That you could assess a penalty 1 on that for not actually getting that right away. Pardon? So, yes, the degree of difficulty is getting it as quickly as you can. Okay. Okay, and with we talked about loss of rein. We're going to get to it a little later, but that happens. It's a 3-point penalty when if it's called for a hand gallop or a 2-point at any point. You just don't lean forward and bring your hand forward, and that rein goes loose. That's the penalty. 3. You gather your reins to avoid that penalty. Okay? Make sense? So many times we just see people lean forward, their hands go forward, the rein goes looped. Okay? Loss of stirrup, loss of contact, or loose rein are 3-point penalties. Okay, so we're going to... Okay, we're going to page 9, the novice. We're going to begin at the walk again. Then we're going to go left diagonal. 4 steps, right off to the left diagonal. Absolutely credit earning. Then we're going to canter right lead. Notice that she cantered the center of the arena and got in a really nice canter here. She's arcing. Then she's going to stop and back. She's going to canter left lead. And when she gets towards past the center a little bit, she's going to break to a posting trot on the right diagonal. When she gets back to the beginning of her circle, she's going to change and go right diagonal. She's going to, there we go. Stop with A, and even with A, with 360 to the right, credit earning forehand turn, walk 1 horse length. Okay. Hope. Turn, but do it, come back here and do it more on the haunches than you do on the forehand, okay? So we're going to show you a turn. It's a turn, but it's not a credit earning turn. It calls for a turn, 360 forehand turn to the right. She's going to the right, but can you see he's not turning off of the forehand? Minus situation, okay? Very good. Does anybody need to see that pattern again? Questions? Okay. Okay, page 10, the 13 and under, and the non-pro masters. Questions while we have a moment? Okay. On penalties in the hunt seat equitation, incorrect diagonal. Less than 2 strides is a 1-point penalty. More than 2 strides is going to be a 3-point penalty. If you never change it in the novice, it'll be an OP. In the 14 to 18, 13 and under, amateur, non-pro, it will be a penalty score 0, a disqualification. Okay. You okay? You're great. Thank you so much. Remember that loss of contact, okay? She's going to start to the left of the cone. Extend the walk. Walk the 4 steps, and we're going to go left diagonal. We're going to canter a 3/4 circle to the right and stop. And remember to stop prior to your A cone. Do not cross that line or get to that line. There. 360 haunches to the right. Okay? She did a turn on the forehand, correct? It should be a haunch turn. Okay? If you just looked at the drawn pattern, you would have thought it was a forehand, but it's written as a haunch turn. And she did not back, so if this was the non-pro, she'd be penalty score 0. Yeah, don't blame her for that. This is great. She's doing this because, and then you're going to side pass. Now we go forehand to the left, 360. And make sure you walk. You're still being judged. Pattern is complete. Yes, ma'am. We'll probably hold them back here a little bit before, because it'll be finished here. Yeah, we'll probably. Yeah. Probably won't be. The question was, are we going to have a person standing at the cone or a horse at the cone while this pattern's completed? I'm going to say no. They'll be working their way into the arena because of interference of looking at the rider that's on pattern or any disturbance of that rider. Good question. Okay, we're walking. Then we're going to go extend the walk, and then we're going left diagonal. Then we're going to canter the 3/4 circle right lead, and we're going to stop short of the A line of the line of A cone. And remember, this is a 360 haunch to the left. Haunches to the right. My bad. So, there we go. There. Okay. Very good. Then we're going to back. Then we're going to go right diagonal. Watch how she takes this right diagonal. Sit. 1, 2, up. That answered questions from before. And if you need it more back there, that is fine. You take as much room as you need to do that. Then the left lead. Then stop. We're going to side pass left. 3, 4. And then we're going to turn 360 on the forehand left. And we're going to walk 1 length, 4 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pattern is complete. Any other questions on that? Yes, ma'am. Where are you talking about? Yeah, the question is that the pattern, the canter starts whether you're going, both go to the right. Later, it's not a complete circle. Is that what you're saying? To make sure. No, if you're trotting at the top of that canter, you're going to get a penalty, a location penalty for that. That'll be a penalty 3 because it's way too late. Yes, correct. You need to be straight. Yes. Correct. Yes. Yes. Yeah, she was just making sure. She was saying about being too high up on the thing. No. Got it?
Okay, just real quick on this 14 to 18 and non-pro 35 and over pattern, page 11. So we're on page 11 now. This pattern, it shows that your circles to the left are equal with where you start. We put the cone over here because some horses are not going to need that much space, and we don't want to wear them out. But if you've got a big horse, then you can start over here. We're not going to penalize you for starting over, as long as you start next to the cone, or if you start back here, just know that we're going to start judging you once you meet A, okay? So you can start over here if you feel like you need to bring your circles out this far, all right? So just so everybody knows that. I don't want anybody to be confused and think, oh gosh, that's going to really make me constricted, okay? All right? All right, so this pattern will begin with an extended walk and then a 270 forehand left. All right, she's going to start by extending her walk. She just wants to make sure she gets a good walk in, minimum of 4 steps. She can go further if she wants to. Then she's going to stop and do her 270 forehand to the left. And canter a left lead around the corner. Now she needs to set up now and be thinking how wide she wants this pattern to be, and that's how far over she's going to go. Then she's going to extend hand gallop. So she needs to move forward and needs to make sure her reins are shortened up. Then she'll collect the canter and canter half circle and change leads, either simple or flying. So that was a good flying. There would be no deduction on her flying. If the horse doesn't do a perfect flying, they maybe drag their hind just slightly, a half a stride, we don't penalize them in the equitation. We could take that as in the maneuver score as just a 0 or just depending on each judge's preference. .360 forehand turn to the right, and then she's going to back. Then she'll do a sitting trot to A, and once she's past A, the pattern is complete. So you'll just need to make sure, looking at the size of your horse, where you want to start on this cone. Is there anyone that needs to sit? Yes, ma'am. Yep. And that's, yeah. Right. That's why I said everybody needs to, think about our cone placement, think about where you want to start. You may want to start further over because you're going to have a bigger horse, you need more room. So, yeah. No. Okay. All right. I think we're good with our hunt seat. Yep. Thank you very much. We will not be doing the non-pro, but we will show you where the cone will be placed. So if you are in the non-pro hunt seat eck, the cone will be placed on the right side of the arena, and it will be placed pretty close to the wall because you will be on the left side of it. All right. That's fine. Is that wide enough, everybody feel like? I feel like it is for what you have to do. So, okay. All right. We're going to go back and do one more showmanship class, and then we'll be done. And that will be on this side again. Okay. They're going to be on this side. Oh, we're on. Oh. I was. Okay, so let's. Yeah. Keep going down. Plenty of room. I agree. Okay. That looks good. All right. Do you know this one? This is another one of those patterns where you may say, I need to be further over. I've got a bigger horse. You've got to come out here and work it, figure out where you need to be. But you'll have an idea where the cone will be placed. So she's going to begin at a jog. Michael, if you could move to your left. Thank you. She's going to begin at a jog. Then she's going to extend her jog, and we need to be able to see that extension. Then she's going to stop. She's going to back until she's equal with her judge. Do a 270 turn. Then she's going to walk and extend the walk and jog to the judge. So probably 4 steps is all you're going to get, and then okay, we needed a jog in there too. So I think, Michael, you're going to have to step backwards more. So in that maneuver, she needed to walk, extend the walk, and then jog to the judge. So we'll definitely be giving more room for this. So that's something to plan for as you come up to start. You may not want to go as high on your extended trot so that you give yourself more room. She's just going to make sure she gets her required steps in for sure. Then she's going to get her extended walk in, and then her jog. When she's excused, she's going to do 90-degree turn, walk a square corner, jog and stop after she's walked her square corner. She will do a 360 turn. Then she will extend the jog and then come back to the collected jog. And at A, she will break to the walk for a 1 horse length, so she needs to make sure she gets at least 4 steps in. So that is going to be a large pattern. If you have a large horse, I would start further over, give myself more room so that I can get in my walk, extended walk, and jog. Any questions on that one? Everybody's good? Guys, thank you. I know we went over a little bit, but we wanted to make sure that we reviewed any tricky parts that might get you, because we don't want it to get you. We want you to shine in those places. So thank you again, and have a great day.